Welcome, students, to another episode of Manhood Academy Podcasting. We're in the classroom, and we just lost about 20 people. We lost Spirit to microphone problems. We got Boggles. Boggles?
Yeah.
Boggles had a rough night, no sleep. He's in Indian mode right now. We got Big L.
Yo.
We got Paperclip.
Yo, yo, yo.
And returning, he's coming out of retirement again. This is Harpo Darpo.
Woo!
Woo! Welcome back, Harpo Darpo.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're in podcasting topics, but before we go into podcasting topics, it looks like Mr. Care Bear made a comment on Plum Goes Solo. I'm so curious to read it. I clicked on it, and I'm reading it, and it says, "Nice work, Torero. Nice work. How or when do you listen to podcasts such that you manage to take so many notes? I usually listen to them before going to sleep and next morning try to remember what was being said." So basically he's saying I have really bad study habits. Thank you for sharing that. All right, podcasting topics. We're going to cover expression. Bright and early in the morning.
Cool.
Writing about yourself to attract others, read various expression posts. Okay, so everybody let's click over to we got DBP back on. Let's everybody click over to the expression section. I'll add DBP back on here.
Round two.
Where's the DBP-ster? DBP, back on?
Yeah, my connection was being retarded. It's
Okay.
fixed now.
Yeah, we're good.
Look at that, man.
Everybody click on over to honing your expression.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're all going to be on our own posts. Actually, let's start on, let's everybody click over to the post that we're reading so we can follow along, but then we'll go to everybody's post here. So,
Who's are we reading?
let's start off with, Big L.
Okay.
Let's go over to Big L's
Right.
post here. Hold on a second. Let me get
Hold
over
on,
to you.
Plum. I just need to open up podcasting topics so I can send them to you. Okay, I'm
We're
ready
on
now.
page 6 of Big L's topics. Big L, what's your
16, my two best friends.
blog 16?
nice.
Hold on. Oh, Solus is coming back. Let's see what he wants. Solus, you there?
I'm here. Do you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now. Your microphone is working. Okay, so you're just going to sit in class. You're a new student. You just wanted to hang out. You haven't read the ebook yet, so you can just kind of follow along and see what's going on.
Okay, thanks.
How's your English?
More or less, I'm better at understanding.
What?
I think that answers you.
I think that answers it. So you're from Brazil.
Yeah, I'm better at understanding than talking.
Than speaking. Okay, so you can listen in and get a feel for what's going on in class. We're covering expression topics. We're going over Big L's expression post or expression thread, and that's in the expression section. Okay, so we're on the second from the last post to the bottom on page 6 of Big L's memoirs. And it
Blog
starts,
number 16.
yeah, blog number 16, my two best friends. Hit it.
Oh, yeah.
I just came back from Dan's house after playing Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics.
At the Winter Olympic? What?
That was fucked up grammar on my. That was some fucked up grammar.
Well, I'm asking what you're talking about. You're in the Winter Olympics. You're an Olympian. You're an Olympic athlete.
No, it was a game actually.
So you're after playing Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic. So something is happening at the Winter Olympic. All right, already starting off, I have no desire to read this because it's so fucking discombobulated.
Whenever I beat his ass in any game, he goes into bitch fest mode. For example, he bitches about.
Hello, whoa! Why are you talking? I'm commenting on your post.
Oh.
Right after the first sentence, you're talking about, or right in the first sentence, it's discombobulated. It's incoherent. Nobody knows what you're talking about. If you're in the actual Winter Olympics, if you're an athlete in the Winter Olympics, or if you're playing a game called the Winter Olympics, nobody knows because you haven't brought anybody into your experience by creating an orderly arrangement.
And if you're talented enough to make it to the Winter Olympics, you're talented enough to add S's to the Winter Olympics.
Yes. Your posts are horrible. Your grammar is horrible. You don't read them out loud. I tell you to read them out loud, and you don't read them out loud. So how are you going to improve if you're not following directions? You're not going to improve.
You're right.
Well, if I'm right, fix it. This post is terrible. I don't even want to read this anymore. I'm done. I don't even know what's going on. You're talking about the Winter Olympic. You forgot the S. And even if you put the S on there, what the fuck does it still mean? Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics.
Or Mario and after Olympics.
This almost sounds like some of Paperclip's posts where he just starts talking about something cultural that's specific to his culture, and nobody knows what he's talking about. Sometimes I know what he's talking about, but other times, like Hibernia pointed out, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know what wrestling culture is. So if you don't bring people into your experience, nobody's going to care about reading the rest of your post. Right now, after sentence number 1, I'm done. I'm clicking on the next post. Explain this first sentence to me. What does it mean?
Okay, it was talking about a video game, really, that was based off of, like, the Olympics.
Okay, so that's what you need to put right in the beginning, so people are able to follow along with you, able to enter into your experience.
Because half the people don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Right after sentence.
Okay, let's try and make it through one paragraph. Go ahead.
Alright. Whenever I beat his ass in any game, he goes into bitch fest mode. For example, he bitches about he bitches about curling in the aforementioned game isn't realistic when it comes to curling. At this point, he may as well be
Hold on. For example, he bitches about curling in the aforementioned game, isn't realistic when it comes to curling. Read the sentence out loud very slowly.
So
Go ahead.
fucking redundant.
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with redundancy. Read the sentence out loud very slowly. Go ahead.
For example, he bitches about curling in the aforementioned game isn't realistic when it comes to curling. Okay.
Does that sound like a coherent English sentence to you?
No.
For example, he bitches about curling in the aforementioned game isn't realistic when it comes to curling. This is so disjointed. How would you fix this sentence?
Okay.
Car alarm.
Realistic when it comes. Okay. Okay. For example, just that it isn't realistic.
Say it out loud.
He bitches about curling in the aforementioned game. That it isn't realistic when it comes to curling.
Or maybe you could break it up into 2 sentences. Hello?
Yes.
You could break it up into 2 sentences if it's too big.
All right.
I suggest you actually try breaking it up into fewer sentences because you're all over the place. Not only is your grammar terrible, it's very hard to follow this when your thoughts are so disjointed. This is why I tell you to read this stuff out loud. We're already 2 sentences in. We're having trouble 2 sentences in. Keep going. Let's go to sentence number 3.
At this point, he may as well be bitching about how virtual reality isn't realistic enough.
Whoops, hold on 1 second here. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Go ahead. At this point, he may as well be bitching about how virtual reality isn't realistic enough. Go ahead.
Oh, next sentence?
Yeah.
Alright. Which reminds me, he's already into the fucking ideology, like it's the latest fashionable excuse to be a misanthrope.
Whoa. Can you read the words you've written? Start it again.
Which reminds me, he's already into the fucking ideology. Oh shit, it didn't make sense whatsoever.
Read it.
Into the fucking ideology.
Start over and read it without your commentary. Just read it like it's written.
Okay. Which reminds me, he's already into the fucking ideology like it's the latest fashionable excuse to be a misanthropic dick who looks down on everyone.
Which reminds me, he's already into the fucking ideology like it's the latest fashionable excuse to be a What does this sentence mean?
I thought you could fix this if you just stated what the ideology is. Because I told you this when I read it last night, and you dismissed it.
Yeah, we're only a few sentences in, and this is so fucking terrible. I mean, these are just some of these things you could just fix by reading them out loud, but the other things where they're just incoherent thoughts. There are a lot of thoughts smashed together. You need to practice just breaking your thoughts up into simple sentences, so we can get through one paragraph without wondering what you're trying to do. You're jumping all over the place. I suggested also to Paperclip that you start reading. You need to know how structure works in a sentence, how to get an idea out. That's absorbed through reading. When you read other people's work, when you read good books, good literature, you start picking up the structure of how things should be arranged. You have very poor arrangement because you have very poor models of arrangement. Or you don't have any models of arrangement. You're just kind of going at how you speak. That's how you write. If you speak, it's all over the place, it's disjointed, and you can't get out a clear, coherent thought. That's how you're going to express yourself when you write, too. So you need to find some more structure around you. Where do you find structure? What's the most convenient place to find writing structure, to find expression structure? Books.
That reminds me, I've already finished chapter 3 of 1984.
Okay, well, it's time to go to chapter 4. It's time to start writing summaries about what you're reading. We need to start seeing structure in your writing.
So I need to make some notes. So I need to write down some notes.
Yes. You need to write down notes, and you also need to pick up more books. You should be constantly reading. There should be reading in your schedule until you sound coherent in written form. You should not be walking around without a book in your hand. There should always be a book in your hand.
Yes, Professor.
Communicating through writing is a basic form of communication that you should already have down. Since you don't have it down, and I know a lot of people don't have it down, they should start working on it. This is one of the prime places where you can start working on this.
All right.
It's one thing to learn that you should start bringing yourself into your expression, where you should start speaking about your experiences, relating them to your person. Talking about your personal reactions in your experiences. That's one thing. That's one part of communication. That's adjusting how you're communicating. But this has to do with the fundamental, elements of the communication. If I can't even make it through a sentence, or you can't clearly explain a thought, that's going to be more of an issue than you learning how to bring yourself into your communication by sharing more of your reactions versus dead information. You can only share your reactions and start speaking more about your personal reactions instead of just speaking about dead information after you have a basic fundamental grasp of grammar, after you have a basic understanding of how to convey just a simple thought, regardless of its information or not. Regardless of whether it's just static information or your personal experience. You still have to be able to convey that in a simple, coherent manner. You can't do that yet.
Right.
So reading you is a chore. That's why I just don't want to read what you write. So your next expression post should cover something basic. Maybe even it would be good to pick up elements of style or one of those basic grammar books and just write about that. But it should be your next expression post should be concentrated on writing a coherent thought out in a paragraph, writing coherent thoughts, writing sentences that make sense, that aren't all discombobulated like this. All right, let's move on. Who's next? Did we just add somebody? Wait, we added DVP. Who else did we add? And Solus? DVP?
Yeah, so is it Solus or Solis?
Solis.
Yeah, I saw that on Desperate Housewives. Fucking Solis.
Oh, I remember Solus, the difficult guy in the chat room.
Well, and then his wife, Eva Longoria, whatever that bitch's name is with the hot legs, yeah. That's why I was thinking of Solis.
No, I'm talking about something else. This is the difficult guy in the chat room.
Oh. I thought you were talking about how... never mind.
DVP, you're up.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's go to DVP's. Let me get to your thread here. Expression section. Okay, let's see. Where are you? DVP. Death by Porn's Metamorphosis, page 16. Alright. Which one are we reading?
You pick. How about the last one?
It's your expression thread.
Okay, fine.
Last one. Last post on page 16.
Okay.
Alright.
You ready?
Hit it.
I'm a weird motherfucker.
Sorry, wait a second. We got an interruption. Who's there?
I can't find the...
It's the very last
there
post. Yeah. Okay. I'm a weird motherfucker. I notice that when I eat certain meals, I like to watch business videos. For example, when I'm eating a pizza from my favorite pizzeria, Sarpino's, I love watching boxing videos or promoters talking about the fighters. I can't explain why. The taste of chicken, green peppers, mushrooms, and tomatoes just goes so well with the sport to me. I was eating a leftover slice this morning and was watching Mayweather's...
Hold on. Time out. I can't explain why the taste of chicken, green peppers, mushrooms, and tomatoes just goes so well with a sport to me. Why can't you explain it?
Because I don't know why I like it.
Well, maybe you need to investigate that. This is the whole point of this exercise.
Okay.
To put to words things that you normally don't explain or can't explain.
Okay.
For instance, how do you talk about, if you love your family or if you love your girlfriend? Love is an invisible emotion. Yet people talk about it all the time. They sing about it. They sing about its effects. How do we talk about gravity? How do we talk about anything invisible? Well, most of our life is lived in an invisible realm of our thoughts and our feelings.
Yeah.
You can't just point and say, that's my thought, or that's my feeling right there. That's why we have all kinds of analogies, metaphors, people use voice inflection, etc. to convey things that you can't see, you can't touch. These are intangible things.
Okay, so
explain it to me right now. Why the taste of chicken, green peppers, mushrooms, and tomatoes just goes so well with a sport?
It goes so well with the sport just because...
What is it about this combination of food that goes so well with a sport? Why can't you eat like let's say a Chinese egg roll with a sport?
Well, it's more of nostalgia because I'd always eat. I can't believe I didn't think of this. I'd always eat Sorpino's pizza when I'd watch a fight. Like not just boxing. It goes beyond boxing. It's just any kind of combat sport, MMA or boxing, anything like that. So, and I'd always have a pizza while I watch it. So I think it's just nostalgia.
So is this like when you're growing up as a kid, or just right now as at your present age?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
So it's a feeling of nostalgia of thinking back to good times, as good memories associated with it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's what you need to put down here.
All right.
That conveys that. Okay, keep going.
But I don't even know. Okay, but I don't even know why I like it. I do now. It's the same thing when I have Honey Bunches of Oats cereal. I always like to go to Tom Likes' webpage.
Well, wait. I'm sorry. Where are you at?
The sentence below the first paragraph.
Sentence below the first paragraph. Wait. Start at I was eating a leftover slice this morning.
Oh, okay. I was eating a leftover slice this morning and was watching Floyd Mayweather's Greatest Hits. I wish I knew how to put my enjoyment into words, but I don't even know why I like it.
I wish I knew. I wish you knew how to put your enjoyment into words too.
It's the same thing when I have Honey Bunches of Oats cereal. I always like to go to Tom Likes' webpage and see his info on his syndication company. Enough of this bullshit. I'm really, really annoyed right now. I have these warts. I have these warts on my foot. I postponed getting rid of them till this morning, in the middle of typing my expression post. My mom has this trick to slowly get rid of them, where she puts this cream on the warts and then she puts silver tape over them to keep the cure concentrated and effective.
Duct tape.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's duct tape. I don't know what kind of tape it is, but I know it's not duct tape.
Well, I read on the net that people use duct tape to get rid of warts. They put duct tape straight on their wart.
Oh, well, guess I'm an idiot then.
Keep going.
Now I can handle not being able to walk. Hold on. Now I can handle not being able to walk.
Hold on a second. Whose mom is talking? Somebody's mom or girlfriend in the background? Nobody? Okay, keep going.
Now, I can handle not being able to walk properly and not being able to shadow box. But when my hairs are being pulled off with every fucking goddamn cocksucker piece of shit faggot motherfucker step I'm taking, it makes me angry very quickly.
You sound very angry.
Even now, just adjusting my posture in the chair is painful. The worst part is I have to do this every day for 2 weeks. Bye-bye working out, bye-bye running, bye-bye having fun in general. I didn't realize how much I love to move until I was disabled. Metaphorically, of course. This is going to be a long 2 weeks. Every day doing this. I'm going to have to start shaving my toe hairs just to be able to walk without feeling stinging pain. But this is much better than the alternative, getting them cut out. I would like to avoid this. Luckily, my warts are very, very small. My mom has had hers for 30 years. Yeah, this pain is far too annoying. There's no way I can focus on finishing this post coherently with this on. God damn it, I'm so pissed off right now.
Boggles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boggles.
Yeah, what's up, man?
What do you mean, what's up? Are you paying attention?
Oh, yeah, I didn't like the last part. He's describing his words and stuff. That really was kind of boring. I mean, it's kind of like,
he's describing his words and he's describing his words and stuff, and it's really boring.
No, warts.
Oh, warts and stuff, okay.
Yeah, that part. I mean, it was kind of like, I mean, it became like, because I don't know about warts. Hold
on, we're getting some major echo. Hang on, Boggles. Let me call you right back. Oh, brutal.
Fucking Skype, man.
Skype.
Always something.
It's always something with Skype. Okay, Big L.
Yeah?
Reaction.
Reaction?
Yes.
Oh.
Boggles back on.
See, I loved the first paragraph. However, I had the same problem that that Professor Plum had at the very first paragraph. That he didn't explain it. That he didn't explain the very feeling that he had when he was, for example, eating pizza from Soprano's while watching boxing videos.
Yes.
Like, the problem with this first paragraph was that he didn't explain, he didn't go into detail.
Okay. Boggles, you back?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Boggles.
It was kind of, I mean, I don't know about words, so it was educational, but other than that, it was pretty boring, him describing all those procedures. The anger part, yeah, I was like, oh, okay, he's angry, but I really don't care for so many cuss words in a row. I mean, I feel maybe if he painted a different picture, or like compared to how angry he was in a different manner, rather than just throwing cuss words, I would have enjoyed it better.
Okay, so your complaint is he's using a word like, let's say, motherfucker to express anger, but yet you don't get a real sense of that anger. There's no degree or picture painted of that anger.
Yeah, because I mean, he uses that. Big L uses that. A lot of guys use, it's like a word like trying like, oh fuck, it loses its value. It's not
Just kind of laziness, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Harpo Darpo.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on a second. I think we got Jar in here. Let me bring Jar in here. I like how they send me surveys in the middle of the call.
Wait, who, Skype?
Skype. It says, "What's the call? How's the call quality?" I would say it's fucking terrible.
Like all our podcasts, the quality's terrible.
I would like to say fucking terrible.
It looks like Solus dropped out.
It felt like pulling teeth. Okay, we got Jar. Anybody else that jumped in here?
Wow, yeah, we did lose.
We're losing people and gaining people.
This is like a war and we're losing soldiers.
Or it's like we're on a yo-yo diet.
Yes. Okay. Well, Jar knows we're calling him. Okay. Sorry,
All right.
who was speaking?
It was me, Harpo.
Go for it.
Let's see here. So, yeah, I kind of had the same problem with the first big paragraph.
Right.
I can't explain why. I noticed I do that myself. And every time I say it, I'm like, oh, that's just a cop-out. Like, I can explain why. I just need to put effort into doing it.
Right.
And then there was another thing. This is more from how he was reading it than from the actual content of the post. Like, enough of this bullshit, I'm really annoyed right now. Like, when he read that, he started laughing. And I was like, I wonder why he's laughing. What, is there more to this that he isn't telling us? Or, like, what's going on?
So basically, the words don't match the emotion, don't match the thought, the sentiment. So there's a disconnect. When you read something like, oh, I hate this guy, and somebody's like, oh, I hate this guy, ha 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 ha. It's like, does this guy really hate this? Does he really hate him? Or is he just poorly expressing this thought?
Yeah, it's like a shy chick, and she giggles with everything that she says, and it's like, oh, my friend died yesterday.
So poor oral expression. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
agree.
I don't know. I think it could be helped if like you had more exploration into why you were laughing when you read that out loud. But like put that into.
Because I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny when I went from one thought to enough of this bullshit.
Hey, you could put that in there.
Okay. Sounds good. Paper.
I like how DVP goes from talking about Floyd Mayweather's greatest hits to the pain in his foot. He stimulated my brain because I was thinking, okay, I know Floyd Mayweather. He likes to move around, he's fast like a cheetah, and he has some knockout power. But then suddenly, when he started talking about the worst on his foot, I was like, oh shit, if I was boxing right now in the ring and I had worse on my foot, it would be like walking through hell. My feet would be burning, I'd be getting punched in the head, and I'd be worried more about the pain in my foot than getting knocked out.
So this is more interesting to you because you have experience with fighting versus it being interesting in itself.
Yeah, I had no clue who Floyd Mayweather was.
Okay.
I don't know.
You don't know what?
I don't know what stimulated me.
Well, that's what we're here to figure out. Because it sounds to me like you're speaking a lot about your personal experience, which DVP didn't even speak about. So it sounds like you're doing like the crazy cat lady syndrome, where you say, "Oh, my cat's really happy," when you're the one who's really happy. It sounds like you're speaking about your personal fighting experience and just kind of extrapolating what DVP is saying and just kind of applying it to your life. So it's provoking thoughts in you about your life, but it's not necessarily, something that you would enjoy reading if you didn't know it. If it wasn't necessarily stimulating, if you didn't fight or, you didn't have an experience with pain or injuries in the ring. Let's say you're just a computer programmer.
You're right.
I don't think it would have the same appeal to you.
Okay.
Let's see.
Now I need to read this over.
I kind of have the same general comments, and I also agree with Boggles. There's a lot of, fuck yous, and this is bullshit. Just the typical exclamations that might matter in person if you're speaking, but when you're writing, they're just lazy devices to convey anger or to convey frustration, and they don't really bring the listener into the specific degree of your experience. So they're really not adding anything. If anything, they're hurting your post. And I would say there's also a problem with the expression as far as reading the post. I don't feel you're connecting with your own experience, which is, if you're reading something that's from your life, you should be connecting with that experience and conveying that to the person who's listening to you. And somebody else mentioned, that there was a lot of dry description and not a lot of personalization of that description. For instance, in the beginning, you didn't bring anybody into your experience or explain who Floyd Mayweather was. I know who he is, but other people I'm sure don't know who he is. And also, when you're speaking about, we already covered in the very beginning, where you have experiences that you understand why you're talking about them, but you didn't take the time to delve into that. I had to do that. I had to be the one stimulating you to bring you out of that. I had to ask you questions and figure out what's going on versus you volunteering that information. That's what your expression post is for, to explore that information. All right, let's hit it, Harpo.
Put simply, this is just a lazy expression.
Yeah, this is a very lazy post.
Okay.
Harpo Darpo, hit it. Let's get to yours. Let's see.
Hold on,
I'm on the second page already.
Moving on up to the east side, we finally got a piece of the pie. We're moving on.
Harpo, you said that you're on the second page?
Yeah.
Harpo, where are you? Oh, you're on page 2 of the threads. I don't even see you on the first page here.
Yeah,
He's
it's
number
pretty
1 on
shameful.
page 2.
Okay, page 30 of your expression thread. You got 30 pages though.
Woo! Okay.
Unfortunately, I think 15 pages of those are conversations between students back and forth.
Yeah.
All right, which one are we reading?
Okay, let's see here.
Page
Right now.
page 30, second from the bottom.
Yep.
Okay, hit it.
I've built up some momentum by posting daily up till now. Gotta keep it going! I usually like to have a few topic sentence type things written out so that things become more organized, but today that just isn't happening. It's like I'm turning the key in my mind and all that's coming out is that grindy noise a car makes when an engine needs work. All these thoughts I have are fuzzy and directionless. I'm supposed to have a direction, to bring other people into my experience of the world. Even though I've been thinking about that and even explaining the concept to my friends a lot lately, it's like a smooth bowling ball with no finger holes. It's tough to grasp. I have to admit, though, it seems to be getting a bit easier the more I do it. Just earlier today, I spent some time with a friend of mine and had next to no
Hold
problem.
on. Let's cover that first paragraph. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, me too.
Any comments, Paper?
I like his analogies, especially when he says that, and I'm trying to key in my mind, and all that's coming out is that grinding noise the car makes when the engine needs to work.
No. So you're trying to
Keep
start
that
the engine?
image in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, DBP.
I liked my favorite part of the entire paragraph was when he talked about it. It's like a smooth bowling ball with no finger holes. It's tough to grasp. I really like that part. The next part, I have to admit though, it seems to be getting a bit easier the more I do. That last sentence in the paragraph, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, no shit. So I was thinking this is just like common sense. But other than that, I really like the paragraph.
Okay.
I was entertained.
Boggles, you there? Guess not. Boggles, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What are you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm just strolling around in the corridors at my workplace.
Should you be in class or you need to concentrate at work?
Well, no one's here. Very few people are here.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the analogies. That's all I can think of. I read that was initially like, I built up all this momentum, but that was his voice inflection. I kind of like the analogies, but I don't know. I still prefer personal content to analogies. I mean, analogies are kind of cool.
Right.
But I always like...
So they lose the
people talk
novelty
about
after a
people
while.
themselves. That's more interesting.
So you're saying the analogies lose their novelty after a while?
Analogies are quite... Hello?
Yep, keep going. Boggles.
Hello?
What do you mean by personal?
He's speaking about, like, I think analogies wear on you. For instance,
The
I think people...
the gears.
I think people enjoy, finding out about analogies when they first are like, I could write about... Boggles, what are you talking about?
Hello?
Motherfucker,
I was
Boggles.
impressed.
Boggles. I don't know what's
I
going
said that his connection sucks.
I don't know what's going on with Boggles. We're gonna drop him for a second. Okay. Boggles is talking about when you're first writing and you learn about analogies, it's almost like you start abusing them. For instance, he's talking about things being hard to grasp, like a bowling ball, without holes. This is a good word picture, but it's almost like you become a rapper where you start using nothing but analogies. If you heard some raps before, they say, I'm hot like lava or something, where they're using just these, instead of relying on sharing your emotional content or your thought process, you rely on just imagery, and it almost becomes a distracting device. I see this a lot. Sometimes, I'll read some of these posts, like, this grinding noise, like a car makes a grinding noise. This is a good picture to kind of give us a sense of what's going on. You know, we can relate to trying to start a car and it continually grinds when you turn the engine over. You try to turn the engine over. So you can kind of get a sense of frustration. But then right after that, we see another, he's talking about a smooth bowling ball with no finger holes. So now we're like thrown back and forth between the grinding noise and then the bowling ball. And it's like we got to constantly follow all these word pictures he's using for analogies, and it becomes kind of taxing at some point. Versus just speaking about his personal experience. Like, for instance,
I don't think he used enough analogies where it was at that point where it was taxing.
I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case here, but you could read in some posts
I found it taxing.
where it becomes an issue. Like, I see it all the time whenever Paperclip writes. He likes to paint pictures like that, and it just becomes a distraction to me at some point. Like, I'd rather hear from Paperclip himself speaking about his experiences versus always looking for the perfect little picture. It's almost like a nervous tick after a while.
Kind of like using the analogies as an end in themselves rather than express yourself.
The problem with the analogy is it becomes almost like a thinking of a novelty event to interest somebody. For instance, a lot of people say, "Oh, I have nothing interesting to talk about unless I went to the carnival or unless I was in a car accident." So your analogies start becoming like that car accident. You want people to focus on them, so you think of the coolest analogy possible. It's the same thing rappers do a lot of times. They're rapping and they think, if I just come up with this really super sick analogy and it's so clever and witty, people are going to listen to it and go, "Oh, that's the most amazing rap I've ever heard." No. If that's all you do, or if you're a rapper and you have very poor expression skills and you think that this novelty item is going to replace your oral expression, your voice inflection, you're going to come up with the same type of frustrating response. People are just not going to be turned on by it. They're not going to be attracted to that because, again, it's being used as a novelty device rather than you actually putting yourself into your expression, whether you're sharing your personal reaction about it. It doesn't have to be coupled to some word picture.
That makes sense.
Is it possible to share your personal reaction without using any analogies whatsoever?
You tell me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
So, is an analogy required?
No.
Right, so it's not to say that you can't use analogies or you shouldn't practice using analogies to help people paint pictures, especially with invisible concepts. But this shouldn't be a replacement for you wanting to share your experiences. Let me say that a different way. This shouldn't be a replacement for you for personalizing an entry. For instance, let's say you want to personalize an entry by talking about your family experience. You could say, "Our family is like a circus. Everybody's a clown." Now, you may be using that analogy to cover the fact that you don't really want to talk about your family. I mean, it kind of paints a picture. You can kind of understand, okay, clowns are, lighthearted, and maybe people in your family are lighthearted. But you can get more specific without using analogies and speak about your family in a more candid manner. But if you just rely on analogies, or you use them as kind of a crutch to get around speaking about yourself, it just becomes a distraction. It just becomes just as generic as saying, "My family has a fun time together," or "We get along well." It becomes just as generic as that. Because an analogy can only say so much. You can use an analogy to set a tone. I'm as happy as a clam. I'm as giddy as a schoolgirl. You can use analogies to kind of paint a general sense of something, but to get more specific, that requires more of yourself, and to put more of yourself into the reaction. It's a little more risky because you risk the rejection of people not liking that, not liking hearing about that. So it's a scary thing to get away from these crutches and just start speaking about yourself.
Yeah.
It takes practice.
Who's a student that writes well and doesn't use many analogies?
Why don't you be that student?
I want a point of reference.
Well, why don't you? You could read a book. There's a lot of books out there that they don't have flowery analogies, and you can read some intense experiences. I mean, one of the most intense entries I've read has been from DVP, where he's speaking about his family life. There's not a lot of analogies in there, but he's speaking about very personal things.
This up, Carlos.
What's that? Hello?
What was it?
Wait. Who brought up what?
I think
lost.
Boggles brought it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you brought up the analogy problem.
Oh, okay. All right.
Got it. Okay. Who have we called on? Who haven't we heard from yet?
Boggles.
Boggles, you there?
Yeah. I'm here.
Boggles, you sound like you're stealing something.
busting while robbing a
Boggles. Usually you have 200
Well,
things to usually you have 200 things to say, so
Yeah.
we can tell whenever you sound different. It sounds like either you're stealing something or you're about to commit suicide.
Sounds like he's trying to pickpocket somebody.
Or he's like very hushed, like his boss is over his shoulder and he's just trying to be covert about it.
That's how I generally sound when I work.
So we can tell you're in a totally different environment. There's a totally different Boggles expression here.
Yeah. Even when people call me at my work, like they're like, "Wow, you sound so different."
You sound so different. You sound so subdued.
Yeah.
You sound
Well,
less,
at my
you
work,
sound less violent at
I got
work.
reprimanded that I have a loud voice and stuff many times.
You got reprimanded that you're in a class instead of doing work.
Well, today there's hardly anybody here.
Okay, so you can fuck around at work. Okay. Well, anything else to add? We got Boggles. Big L, what'd you have to say?
Wait, what we were... shit, I didn't pay attention.
Okay, great. All right, let's go back. Keep going, Harpo.
Oh, crap.
the balls.
Alright, let's see here. Okay. Just earlier today...
Oh,
I
wait.
spent-
One more thing I want to comment on is your oral expression is really good in this because I'm actually listening to the inflection and getting into the story versus just it sounding like somebody reading a summer vacation essay.
Cool. Thank you.
Keep going.
Alright. Just earlier today, I spent some time with a friend of mine and had next to no problem expressing myself. I'd freed up brain power that usually would be clumped into a neurotic, anxious mess, and paid special attention to my voice inflection. I like the experience because now that I've brought it up from the depths of my unconscious mind, I think I'll be able to train my inflection so that I can lay it back down in there as a new and improved habit. Yes! Sorry. After I have an experience
This is jolting because on one hand you're reading it like you're reading a library book,
Yeah.
and then on the other hand you come to yes, and you know how yes sounds when you actually express that yes. Like for instance, if you're reading this in the same tone as you were making your exclamation, you might say, "Just earlier today, I spent some time with a friend of mine, and I had no problem expressing myself. I'd freed up brain power that usually would be clumped into a neurotic, anxious mess, and paid special attention to my voice inflection. I like the experience because now that I brought it up from the depths of my unconscious mind, I think I'll be able to train my inflection so I can lay it back down in there. So I can lay it back down in there as a new and improved habit. Yes." See, it flows together because I'm expressing it the same way as if I was reading it or saying it to you. Although these words are a little bit tough to speak, it's not normal. It's not said in the cadence of speaking, or it's not even written as how you would speak this if you were saying it directly to somebody. But the way I read it is more in line with the yes, the exclamation at the end. Whereas you read it like, just earlier today, I spent time with a friend of mine and had next to no problem expressing myself. So you're almost reading an essay, and then you get to the end, and you drop the essay formality, and you go back to oral expression like you're actually saying this. Yes! It's very jarring, very disconcerting.
Okay, so just keep the same, it's not really a matter of intensity necessarily, but just not being so guarded with the way I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. You should be reading this like you're speaking about it out loud, or you're speaking about it to a friend, or with the friend you're having the conversation with.
Yeah, like when you were speaking, like very when you're how the contrast between the way you expressed everything earlier before yes, it reminds me of somebody saying like when you're play fighting with a friend, and he says, "Watch the hands, watch the hands, watch the hands," and then he kicks you in the face.
I don't understand. Explain that.
Have you ever been play fighting with a friend?
Yes.
And then you're hitting each other with your hands, and then he'll say something like, "Watch the hands, watch the hands." He'll be moving his hands in front of your face, and then when you're actually paying attention to his hands, he'll throw a kick out of nowhere, and he'll catch you by surprise.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a sucker punch, but like a sucker kick.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so you're saying this is like a sucker kick?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Hopefully it's not to the balls.
Usually it is.
So you gave us a sucker kick. He's trying to say you gave us a sucker kick. Okay, keep going.
Alright. After I have an experience like this, I have to remind myself that I'm not out of the woods yet. Hell, I don't think there's really woods to escape. I see the academy more as a continuous spiral staircase of improvement. It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Paper. How would you read that second sentence?
Looking for the seconds. It's never going to stop.
No. After I have an experience, the sentence after that.
I have to remind myself that I'm not out of the woods yet.
Nope.
Starts with hell.
Oh, hell, I don't think there's really woods to escape. I see the academy more as a continuous spiral staircase of improvement.
How would you read that, DBP?
Hell, I don't think there's really woods to escape. I see the academy more as a continuous spiral staircase of improvement.
Boggles, how would you read that?
I see the academy as
Nope. Let's see. No.
spiral staircase.
Big L, how would you read that?
Alright, now it's my turn. I see the academy as, more as a continuous spiral staircase of improvement.
That's not the first sentence.
Oh.
I'm sorry, that's not where it starts.
Oh, right. The beginning of the paragraph.
No.
The second sentence. It doesn't start at the semicolon. It starts before that.
Alright. Hell, I don't even know, I don't think there's really woods to escape. I see the academy more as a continuous spiral staircase of improvement. It's never gonna stop, sure. It's never gonna
stop.
Sure.
Hell. How do you guys read hell? Because it sounds like
Hell.
it's an exclamation almost. It's like when you say things, say somebody's selling you a stereo outside, and they say, "Hey, you want to buy this stereo for $200?" And you're like, "Hell, I wouldn't even buy that for $2."
I don't use that word.
Well, if you're using an exclamation point or an exclamation point, if you're making a declaration, a hell or something like heck, fuck,
Or fuck.
I
dude,
say shit.
it's like shit, like, dude, I wouldn't even buy that for $2. That's always saying hell, I wouldn't even buy that for $2.
Okay.
But you guys are reading it like this, hell, I don't think that there's really woods to escape to. So the whole point of making that exclamation is lost. So again, this has to do with understanding and connecting with your expression, like how you genuinely feel that sentiment. Why did you even put hell there? It's easier when you're writing, hell, I wouldn't do that, and you're thinking it in your brain, but once it transfers to your lips, there still has to be that connection with that thought, with that feeling. Hell, I wouldn't even buy that for $2. Or, dude, I wouldn't buy that for $2. You crazy? Do you see how my inflection is there? It's strong? Dude, I wouldn't buy that.
Yeah, that clarifies it quite a bit.
So, your oral expression should match your sentiment that you're expressing here. Let's hear it.
Okay, should I start from...
Start from the sentence.
Okay. Hell, I don't think there's really woods to escape. I see the academy more as a continuous spiral staircase of improvement.
There you go. So now you're connected with your thought. Now we're not bored with the sentiment, because if you're reading it like this, hell, I don't think there are woods to escape. We have heard the monotone voice so much, we subconsciously can just kind of match it to something that's not interesting or not worth listening to. Don't pay attention to this. That's what your monotone voice says. You say, hell, I don't think there's really woods to escape. Or, dude, I don't think there's really woods to escape. This means pay attention, dude. This is meaningful. This is something that I'm sharing with you that is important to me, that you should listen to. Your voice inflection says everything about your expectations, whether you value them or not. When you're just saying, hell, I don't think there's really woods to escape, this means you don't care about your expectations. You're so guarded in expressing your thought and your sentiment, your feeling. You're saying you're so worried about what other people are thinking about this that you guard it. So when you guard this, it becomes the opposite of what you intend it to be. You're guarding it because you don't want people to think poorly of you. You don't want them to think badly of you. You don't want them to judge you for this thought. You don't want to take accountability for this thought. So you're guarding it in a monotone voice. But it has just the opposite effect. Instead of attracting people, it repels people.
And I don't want to repel people.
Exactly. So you need to bring people into that sentiment, into that thought, into that feeling. So if I'm saying, hell, I don't think there's a woods to escape, I want to bring people into that. I want to attract people with that sentiment, not repel them with that by saying, hell, I don't think there's really woods to escape. I want to take responsibility for that sentiment. I want to let people know that's mine. I care about that sentiment. I'm not trying to look for your approval for that sentiment. I'm not trying to change that sentiment to please you. Because if I'm changing that sentiment to please you, that means the sentiment doesn't matter. My thought doesn't matter to you. My emotion doesn't matter to you. My feeling doesn't matter to you. That's what you're telling other people. When you put on that monotone voice, you're saying this is unimportant information. You can ignore me. You can ignore this. Keep going.
Okay. Let's see here. It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath. That's really weird. On the one hand, I have this eternal journey. On the other, I have to realize that any victory in basic confidence I've had today isn't going to last forever, or even very long at all. Putting those two thoughts next to each other makes my brain hurt, Mang.
Makes my brain hurt, Mang. How would you read that? How would you read that, Paperclip? Read that last sentence.
Let's all read the last sentence.
Read it, Paper.
Putting those two thoughts next to each other makes my brain hurt, man.
Yeah, Mang. That's how I'd say it. Putting those two thoughts together, putting those two thoughts next to each other makes my brain hurt, Mang.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm saying Mang. I'm saying it to my buddy. I just say Mang to my buddy. What's going on, Mang?
That was cool.
What you talking about, man?
What you talking about, Mang? So
You
it's a
doing, Mang?
playful.
I'm
When I'm
listening
saying
to my
Mang,
little friend.
when I'm saying Mang, I'm using it in a playful tone. So that's the way I want to convey that sentiment. I don't know how he says Mang, but that's how I say Mang. Whenever I say Mang, I'm usually saying it in a playful tone. So that's the kind of sentiment I'm trying to convey with my voice inflection. Putting these two thoughts next to each other makes my brain hurt, Mang.
No, I get it.
Man.
That's really weird. On one hand, he said something else here that I
Putting
caught
these
on.
two thoughts next to each other makes my brain hurt, man.
It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate. Instead, he read it like this. It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate. But even after that, again, it takes on the cadence of, reading my summer vacation essay. I went to Lake Tahoe to ski on my summer vacation. It was fun. Right? It loses all the personal element. It's just conveying of dead information. Sure, I want to graduate. Or, sure, I want to graduate. But after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath. Sure, I want to graduate. This has to have your cadence to it. It has to have your personal expression in it. It has to have your personal experience in it.
Can I try it again?
Sure,
I kind of
go ahead.
want to try it again.
Sure,
so I
go
can get
ahead.
more okay.
Sure, wait. Sure, go ahead. Try it again.
It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath.
How would you read that last sentence there, Paper?
I like the experience, because now I've brought it up from the depths of my conscious mind. I think I'll be able to train my inflection, so I can lay it back down in there as a new and improved habit. Yes!
Where are you reading? No, I mean,
Oh, snap, I read the wrong.
next one. Last sentence.
Next paragraph.
Yes.
Okay. It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath.
How would you read that that last sentence, DVP?
It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until.
These
until
all
I
sound
take
very
my
wooden,
final
like you
breath.
guys are reading things. DVP. I mean, not DVP. Big L.
Yeah.
Hold on. Boggles. I gotta hang up on you. Your mic is killing me.
Hold on, what did you say about the woods?
Yeah.
Big L. What
Yes?
do you mean the woods? What are you talking
You said
about?
something about something sounding wooden or something?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, when you guys are reading, you're reading, sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath. It sounds like a wooden boy is reading it, like Pinocchio. Big L, how would you read that final sentence there?
Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have
I
to
want
keep
to
pushing
graduate.
until I am shit.
Sure, I want to graduate. Power Pro, how would you read that last sentence?
Okay. It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath.
Okay.
Can I read
I
that?
see an exclamation point. I'd say, let's see, how would I read this? It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate, but after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath. So I'm trying to read it in the like how I see that sentiment. I'm sure you guys would read it if you had memorized it and you had to say it to me out loud without reading the words. I'm sure you guys would say it differently. But this is the point I'm trying to get at. You're going to have to try and work at reading while you're reading it. You're still going to have to enter into that sentiment and practice saying it the way you hear it. Like that's the way I hear it with an exclamation point. That's the way I hear it. It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate. See, when I'm saying sure I want to graduate, it's like a no duh. To me, that says no duh. Sure, I want to graduate. That's a granted. That statement is a granted. That's an obvious statement. Duh, Captain Obvious. Sure, I want to graduate. That's how I'm reading that sentence.
Got it.
I don't know if you guys are reading it that way, but that's how I'm reading it. And that's my personal experience of that, or that's my personal, that's my thought. That's my sentiment being conveyed. That's what you need to convey when you read that. And I know you're reading it a certain way in your mind, but it's not coming across in your oral communication to me. Those two things need to sync up. How you read it in your mind and how you express it with your words, with your mouth. Those two
I don't
things
see it
need
as
to be in
like a
sync.
no duh kind of sense.
Okay, how do you see it?
I see it as like like the sense of peace you get after you have a realization.
Okay, read it
Like,
to me the way you see it.
Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath.
Okay, see, that's much better because now that conveys to me the sense that you're talking about. Paper, how do you see it?
I see it the same way as the VP does. There's self-motivation to continue moving on.
Okay.
And make sure that I graduate.
Read it the way you see it.
It's never going to stop. Sure, I want to graduate, but even after that, I have to keep pushing until I take my final breath.
Okay? Big L, how do you see it?
How do I see it?
Yep.
Like, it sounds rather monotone, but
What?
How do you see the sentence being read? How do you see it in your mind when you hear that?
oh,
Are you paying attention?
yes, I am paying attention now. All
Hold
right,
on,
it's
hold
never
on.
gonna stop.
I'm gonna
Sure.
I'm gonna give you a break. I'm gonna hang up on you. You can pay attention when you hear the podcast. Did we get rid of all the distractions? This is the smallest class ever.
Wow.
It's only us three guys. Who would be the
3
winner
down.
survivor?
Who's gonna screw up next?
Like freaking battle royale, you know?
Pretty much.
Like we're all going to go on to yeah.
Okay. Do we cover who's up? Paper, you
I
up?
haven't gone yet.
We haven't read.
Who haven't we read yet? Hold on, I'm sorry. Who haven't we read yet?
Paperclip. You kicked all the other students out.
I know.
There's no more
Me and
supposed to read.
Paperclip, me and you are left.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do battle. Okay, so let's go to papers thread.
Page 29, last post.
Page.
29.
Wait a second. Let me find your post here.
Oh, that sucks. I posted an image on my post and it's broken.
Broken
Okay.
link.
What was the image
Yeah.
of?
It was working last night. It was of a guy howling.
I got?
Well, go ahead and read it. Last post, page 29. Hit it.
My grammar sucks worse than eating old and hard potato chips for a week.
Okay,
Professor
right off the
Plum
bat,
has said to me-
stop. Right off the bat, you have an analogy. You have a habit of doing this, of using these analogies like gimmicks, like little novelty items, and they wear on the reader.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. You can just say your grammar sucks. You don't have to add the hard potato chips, but you're trying to come up with this clever way of saying it, and it becomes a distraction. Analogies are good when they're necessary, but if you're just throwing them in all over the place just to have a clever post, it kills the point of having analogies.
Okay.
Keep going.
Professor Plum instructed me to make a reading schedule and to post summaries of what I'm reading. I went to the local library to check out a high school classic, but the libraries are closed until the holidays are over. I was bummed and released a sigh that sounded like a tired deflating because now I had to think about what books I have at home to read. The first thought that came to my mind were the endless collection of Goosebumps books I have kept from my childhood. I already had in mind what books from the collection I would read. I was excited, like a kid going to Disneyland, to get home and read.
Okay. Two things I want to comment on. Okay, you still have a bunch of, distracting analogies in here. Tires deflating, kids going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
But here's an example of, of a grammar issue. You say, I was excited, like a kid going to Disneyland to get home and read. Okay? It sounds like you're saying you're excited like the kid going to Disneyland to get home and read. Like the kid is getting home and he's reading. That's not what you meant to say. You meant to say, I was excited to get home to read, like a kid going to Disneyland. Do you see how the arrangement affects everything?
Yeah.
If you say, I was excited, like a kid going to Disneyland, to get home and read, it sounds like the part being modified, like a kid going to Disneyland is, to get home and read is being modified by this kid going to Disneyland. It sounds like he's the one that's going to get home and read. So the arrangement, if you bring the other part of the sentence, the last part of the sentence, and couple it with the first part, which is you're the one who's excited to get home to read. I was excited to get home to read. Like a kid going to Disneyland, the better arrangement, the clear arrangement clarifies the thought. This is the purpose why you need to learn grammar, why you need to learn structure and absorb that through reading. You're going to get this and understand that people are arranging their sentences in a certain way to clarify the meaning.
I'm starting to understand what Boggle said, on the overkill with analogies, because one sentence you said, I was bummed and released a sigh. Now, that would have been good on its own, but then you said that sounded like a tire deflating because now I had to think about and all that bullshit. Basically, it reminded me of a commercial where you see all this scenery, and then like the Grand Canyon or something, and you're absorbed into the scenery, and then a car drives by, and then you realize, oh, it's another fucking car commercial. Great.
DVP,
Okay.
you have a habit of making an analogy or explaining a little part of something, but not clarifying your thought, not bringing people into the, into the meaning of your thought.
Okay.
You're not tying it together.
Hmm.
I got part of it, but you need to explain why these things connect. You're not connecting the dots, why these things connect. You're just kind of laying it out there and expecting people to get that conclusion, when sometimes you're using an obscure analogy or you're using an obscure example, and it's not always clear how these things are connecting them or how you're connecting them.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I've got a question.
So hold on a second. We're going to have DVP connect his thought and make it coherent. Go ahead.
You want me to repeat it from the beginning?
I want you to connect it so it makes sense.
Okay. Basically, the first part of the sentence that you said, I was bummed and released a sigh. Now that reminded me of, I was absorbed in your reaction. I like that part. It's basically like when you see a commercial and you see, like all this beautiful scenery on TV, like in the Grand Canyon. And, then it's ruined by, that sounded like a tire deflating because now you ruined it with another analogy. The same way that the entire scenery is ruined by a car speeding by and you realize, oh great, another fucking car commercial.
Let me ask you a question, Harpo Darpo. Was that clear to you?
Kinda, but I don't think it was a good analogy.
Right.
for-
It didn't make sense to me because he's saying, I still don't get it. Why? How did you make the connection? Like, I understand what you're trying to get at, but it doesn't make sense to me. You're saying that you're seeing the scenery, and all of a sudden you're like saying, oh, this car drives by and ruins it. It disturbs the peace of the scenery, and you realize, okay, another fucking car commercial. How does that connect, though? I don't understand how this sentiment connects to your example here, or how you're trying to apply it to this situation. How does it connect? How does it connect to you? How did you connect it?
How did I connect it? Well, I mean, just the thought that you're so engrossed into what you're seeing or whatever it is you're doing.
Okay, so I get what you're saying. You're trying to say that the car speeding by
ruins what you're engrossed in.
Right, it ruins your concentration. You're like, oh, it's not. The point is, it's not another fucking car commercial. You're adding that. That's extraneous information. The point is, you're watching a car commercial or you're watching something beautiful and you're being jarred out of it by seeing this car drive by. In the same way, Paper is just saying or just making a observation or just sharing a thought like he's sighing, but then all of a sudden he adds this analogy onto it and it kind of distracts you from the whole point of the sentiment that he's just sighing.
Okay.
I feel that if I don't put the analogy, then what I'm saying is boring to read. I use analogies as a crutch.
Yes.
I mean, it would have been good with I was bummed and released aside. That would have been good on its own. It might have been, you could have added more, but that would have been great. I was engrossed in that reaction by itself, but then it was ruined by that. Oh shit, people are calling.
Oops, looks like we got people.
We got people.
Who do we have here? Who's trying to get
Is
in
it
here?
the jar? Oh wait, no, that was earlier. Oh, I forgot.
Okay, do I have to add these people? Who am I trying to add here? Somebody wanted to come on. Who was it? I don't even know who wanted to come on.
I was almost not going to say the analogy because I didn't think it would make any sense, but I wanted to do it anyway just so I could get corrected.
Sweet.
So, what's up?
What's so interesting about just reading, I was bummed and released a sigh? How does that stimulate you?
Because it's your reaction. I was bummed and released a sigh. Anybody here can relate to being bummed and sighing.
It would have been nice. I think it would have been better if, like,
The problem
had
is,
gone more
here's the
into it.
problem. Paper only thinks that if cars are exploding in his post, that people are going to be attracted, or people are going to be interested. You still don't understand that sharing your person is the only interesting thing about your post, not the explosion. Even if you're in a car explosion, the only point of the car explosion eventually is you, not the car explosion.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I got such a clear image when you said that. I was bummed and released a sigh. I could just see you going up to the door, seeing his clothes, and
Yeah,
just,
but that's not the point. He's asking, why is that interesting?
I'm telling him why it's interesting.
No, I'm telling you, I'm explaining the principle behind it is that he is the interesting, learning about him is interesting.
Oh, okay.
Not just why you got the picture right. That's not the point. We're getting at the bigger point here. The point is, you're concerned with novelty events like most people. What interesting things are happening to me? This makes me interesting if something is happening to me. Versus my experience as a human is unique. This is the interesting thing.
Okay.
You haven't learned that yet. You need to learn that.
Okay.
DKO wants to come in. Let's see. I guess we're going to have DKO in here.
Thanks for pointing that out, guys.
DKO, you're welcome.
Venom's in here. I love that picture.
DKO, welcome to class.
Welcome.
DKO, get to the expression section.
Alright.
Okay,
We're on,
keep going,
Paperclip's,
Paper.
thread.
Okay.
Page 29, last entry.
Page 29 of Paperclip's expression thread, last entry in there. Let's go, man.
When I got home, my mom laughed at the idea of me reading Goosebumps books. She prefers me to read books that are not meant for children in elementary school. So she presented me
Hold
books
on,
like-
wait a second. She prefers me?
She prefers me to read.
Prefers me is, it's poor grammar. You want to say she prefers that I read these books, or her preference is, but she doesn't prefer you. If you're saying she prefers you, you're saying that she actually prefers you. Like, she wants you versus she wants someone else. She prefers you. It doesn't
She
you
prefers
don't,
that I read books.
yeah, she doesn't prefer you to something.
Oopsies.
Unless you're directly saying she prefers me over Tim.
Okay.
She doesn't prefer you to something. You're trying to say that she prefers that I read these things over instead of this other thing here.
Okay.
Sounded alright to me. Wow.
Learn something new every day. Keep going.
Yeah. She prefers that I read books that are not meant for children in elementary school. So she presented me books like Crime and Punishment and another quality book, but I turned them down because they look intimidating. The book's thickness and choice of words used scared me like the boogeyman hiding inside your bedroom's closet. In addition,
Hiding inside your bedroom's closet.
Yeah.
Your bedroom's closet doesn't need the possession. You could just say hiding inside your bedroom closet.
Oh, okay.
And again, another distracting word picture. Keep going.
In addition, the themes seem to be about politics and stories to struggle in a foreign country, which I am not familiar with. Attempting to understand politics, especially in foreign countries, is like going to a website in Chinese and attempting to understand its content. I looked for another book of hers, and I found Flowers for Algernon.
Okay, we see the same thing again. By the way, let's get some comments on paragraph so far. Harpo Darpo.
Yeah. This paragraph, again, like, there isn't much, like, I don't know much about your experience from reading it. It's just,
You're relaying events. I'm looking for
Yeah.
books. Relaying static information.
Hello?
yeah, I'm not sure, like, what I should be feeling. I'm not sure what you're feeling, when these things are happening to you. I just know that, like, it's like I'm reading a history, and, like, it's objective and really dry, and, yeah,
There's
I don't
not
really
a lot
have,
of
like,
there's not a lot of personal element, is what you're saying. There's not a lot of
Right.
paperclip in this paragraph. Okay, DKO.
I thought the first was pretty good when he was talking about Goosebumps, because I used to read those books, so I
So
related to
you
that.
liked it because you could relate to the fact that Goosebumps were in there. What if he was talking about pickles and not Goosebumps?
I like pickles too, I love them.
Okay, what if he was talking about wasabi sauce?
No, I wouldn't like it.
So you wouldn't like it based on what he was talking about. So you're not commenting on whether it's a good paragraph or not. You're just commenting on whether you can relate to the elements he's speaking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's useless. Okay, keep going.
and then, well, when he was talking about the boogeyman hiding in the bedroom closet, and the other one where he was when he was comparing the websites to Chinese and all that stuff, I thought that was boring to me. He was just comparing and not talking about himself. That's what I thought.
Right, just throwing out analogies just for the sake of trying to generate interest based solely on the analogies.
Yeah.
Okay, DBP.
I couldn't even notice that he wasn't talking about himself because I was so annoyed with the analogies, especially the one with the boogeyman hiding inside your bedroom closet. I mean, first of all, I just think it's really gay for a grown man to use the boogeyman as an analogy, period, or to even use the boogeyman, period. But, yeah, it's just, I predict that that the analogy problem is going to be throughout his entire post.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say it's going to be throughout his entire post. I don't even think it's relevant to mention whether you think it's gay or not, whether a grown man talks about the boogeyman. I mean, I would have no problem talking about the boogeyman, so I don't even think that's the real issue. The real issue, again, is the overuse of analogies.
Oh wait, I had a question earlier.
Yes.
Do you, like, a few weeks ago, it might actually be in the greatest entertainment thread, but you posted a video of this, there's this black guy who was selling something door to door,
Right.
and, like, every other thing out of his mouth was an analogy.
Right.
But it was actually kind of fun to watch.
It was entertaining. It was entertaining because that had a point. It was supposed to be a comedy routine. It was supposed to be amusing. When those analogies came out, they were kind of, I don't know if they're necessarily ironic, but they were supposed to be funny. So there were a bunch of funny comparisons. This isn't for humor. He's not writing just to be a humorous guy here. We're not at clown school.
Oh, okay.
So there's a difference between a guy sharing all these analogies. You know, he's talking about the video. Yeah, you're posted about this black guy who goes door to door and has a sales pitch, but it's just a very humorous a lot of puns thrown in, a lot of analogies made, but they're all intended to be humorous. So there's an intention with these analogies, whereas this is not supposed to be humorous. So he's not just throwing analogies out there just to make you laugh, but he's trying to convey himself and his experiences. If that black guy who was a comedian tried to speak that way, the way he was selling his product, you would want to punch him in the face. You wouldn't be amused with him. You'd be annoyed with him very quickly.
That's true.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. Flowers for Algernon caught my attention because it seemed like an easy book to understand, especially because I've seen the movie and read the book before. I wouldn't mind reading it again, because I've already forgotten what happens in the book, but I know it's interesting. Reading it again, it's like, I don't even want to read the analogies anymore. I want to skip them.
Read it anyway.
I'm ashamed of them.
Too bad. Read it anyway.
It's like reading it again, it's like experiencing the joy of eating a delicious, exotic dish for the first time because of forgetting what it tastes like.
Okay. Forget the analogy part of that, which is distracting. Again, this is not to say you can't use analogies. It's just that when they're overused like this, they just become a distraction. But the other problem here is reading it again is like experiencing the joy of eating a delicious exotic dish for the first time. Then you add another clause onto that because of forgetting what it tastes like. So you're adding two thoughts into one sentence and it becomes confusing. So reading it again is like experiencing the joy of eating a delicious exotic dish is one thought for the first time. That's one thought. But then because of forgetting what it tastes like, makes this whole sentence confusing to understand because you have two types of things going on here. What's a better way to break that up if you were going to use that? Paper.
I'd say, instead of saying because, I'd say, and reading it again is like experiencing the joy of eating a delicious exotic dish for the first time. I would just take out the second sentence.
Yeah, it doesn't add to it. That first sentence, I mean, that first part there, that first clause makes it clear what you're talking about. Because of forgetting what it tastes like is, I don't know if that's even necessary, or what were you trying to say?
I wanted to make sure that the person reading it understood that it's like eating something really delicious, but then not eating it for a whole year, and forgetting how it tastes like.
Okay.
Now you go back eating it, and it's like, wow, I forgot what the experience was like. And
Okay, so the because part doesn't belong there. The because is throwing it off. It's not explained well.
Okay.
Do you see how there's like a lot of thoughts in the sentence? The sentence period says this is one thought. This is one clear thought. When you jam all these things into here, you're trying to imply that this is one clear thought when it's not. There's multiple thoughts going on in your head. That's why you need to break these up into smaller sentences if you have, or if you're going to work on your arrangement, you want to make sure this one thought is clearly defined. Whereas here it's not clearly defined. Even because doesn't even belong there. It might be an and belongs in there, or it really needs a restructuring itself.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
I opened to the first page and immediately closed it once I read the first sentence. The sentence was filled with misspellings. Now I remember, the main character is retarded for the first few chapters as he slowly becomes educated and writes better.
This is like you, Flowers for Algernon.
Yeah. I skimmed through the book and noticed I have to get past 20 pages or so before the sentences lack spelling errors. I'd rather not take the risk of reading and referencing what I'm reading as good writing, because I don't have a good point of reference to determine what is good. Boom! I placed the book on the nightstand beside my bed and moved on to a Goosebumps book. The book I started reading is called One Day at Horrorland. I read this book before, but the fact that it takes place in a scary theme park always attracts me, like metal to a magnet.
Okay, wait a second, hold on. Whoa, slow down here. I rather not, I would, or I, comma, D. You're trying to say I would rather not, right?
Where are you?
Oh, I'm sorry,
A little bit above there.
Three
I'd rather
sentences
not
back.
take the risk of reading. Yeah, and it's apostrophe, not comma. Apostrophe.
Yeah, I meant apostrophe.
What paragraph are you on?
The where it ends in Goosebumps books.
Oh, okay.
So 2 sentences before that, it says, I rather not take the risk of reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather.
I'd rather, because you forgot the would. I would rather not.
I would rather.
I would rather not take the risk of reading. That sentiment there is off. I would rather not take the risk of reading. You don't take the risk. What are you trying to do here?
I would rather not take the risk of reading.
I would rather not risk.
Book.
You're basically
I would rather
saying
not take the risk of reading a book with
you could just say I would rather not risk. I would rather not risk reading. You don't need to say take the risk. Risk is good enough. I would rather not risk reading.
Am I just using too many words? Too many unnecessary words?
Well, it's just, and again, it's another grammar issue. It's just you need to get used to structuring your sentences, according to the words you're using. You're not sure of how to use these words.
Okay.
I would rather not take the risk of reading. I would rather not risk reading and referencing what I'm reading as good writing. I would rather not risk reading. How would you fix this, Harpo?
What I would do is, I would rather not risk referencing what I'm reading as good writing.
That's better, right there. You just chop a lot of those extraneous
that's
words
amazing.
off. Because I don't have a good point of reference to determine what is good. Because I don't have a good point of reference. Boom. What's the boom for?
Boom. I mean, that means that I get over the book and decide to place on my nightstand.
Okay, boom is not clear. It's not a coherent thought. It just sounds like you exploded in the middle of a sentence. What does that mean? Boom. It's not clear to your reader.
To describe that?
Well, you're talking about your personal habits. It's like talking about inside jokes to people who aren't on the inside. What does boom mean?
Okay.
You have to consider your audience doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
Saying boom to somebody who doesn't know you, what does that even mean? What are you using boom for?
I'm using boom to say that I got over the book and moved on to a Christmas book.
Okay, so then you would say, "Oh, I'm over this book." You need to explain that. Your inflection, not your inflection, your paperisms, your slang, your terminology.
Yeah. So I would say, boom, I got over the book.
I don't know if you would say, "Boom, I got over the book." Boom is your, "I got over the book" is your explanation for boom. So saying "Boom, I got over the book" would be like saying, "I got over the book, I got over the book."
Uh-huh. I don't know what to do with the phrase boom.
That's my point. It's confusing to a reader if all of a sudden you just throw in boom out of the blue and it doesn't have any connection. This is kind of what Hibernia was getting at when he was talking about your wrestling entry. You're talking about Degeneration X, this and that, and you jump from place to place, so it's not clear what you're talking about. So if you're saying boom, you're trying to say, what was boom again?
I said, boom, I placed the...
Oh, I'm
boom on
over
the
it.
nightstand.
So
I
you're
got
trying to
over
say,
it.
I'm over it. You wouldn't say boom, I'm over it. I'm over it is the explanation for boom.
Okay.
So you would say, I'm over this book, or whatever is in place of boom to explain your sentiment here.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of personal slang, personalized slang. That's just, you understand what you're talking about, but other people who, especially other countries, don't understand what you're talking about. You need to bring them into your experience too.
Okay.
Okay, let's, I think we got enough here. You have enough to work with. Let's go to DKO.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
want me to go to the last one we were at?
Let's see, did we finish reading it?
Almost. We had about 2 paragraphs left.
Okay, let's go to it. Page 19?
Let me go there real quick. It is on
Page 18.
page 19.
That was it 19?
Yeah.
Okay, page 19.
Oh, this story. I can't wait to hear it.
Third from the top?
Hold on,
Yeah.
where are you, DK? Where's your thread?
It's in the expression thread.
Is it on the first page?
No, it's on.
No, it's in the last one.
No, he's talking about on the first page of the
Oh, there it
expression
is.
section.
Found it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just
I'm
a
there.
little while.
Everybody there? Harpo, you there?
Yep.
Okay,
We left off at the second to last paragraph.
second to last paragraph. Oh, the dentist pulling your teeth. Okay, keep
Yeah.
going.
Alright. The woman the woman dentist finally resolved to try one more time and started twisting it. I didn't care if she was going to get a jackhammer to extract it. I just wanted the tooth out. I'd have endured the pain if she had to go through another painful procedure to get the other half of the tooth out of me. She was able to finally take out the tooth after digging under my gum and pulling it with a twist. I was completely relieved. I was happy it was over. It was time for the next one. But the dentist told me that since the other tooth is a crooked one, I have to go to a specialist to take it out. I feel better going to a specialist. I assume specialists have more sophisticated equipment that'll make the procedure of extracting my tooth less painful and quicker than the average procedure. Can't wait to get the other tooth out to get it over with.
Okay, now read it again so I don't fall asleep.
Alright. The woman dentist finally resolved to try one more time and started twisting it. I didn't care if she was going to get a jackhammer to extract it. I just wanted the tooth out. I'd have endured the pain if she had to go through
Okay,
another pain.
stop. Tarpo, can you read this so I don't fall asleep?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
The woman dentist finally resolved to try one more time and started twisting it. I didn't care if she was going to get a jackhammer to extract it. I just wanted the tooth out.
I have endured the pain if she had to go through another painful procedure to get the other half of the tooth out of me. Keep going.
That was good. Paper, why don't you read the last paragraph?
She was able to finally take out a tooth after digging under my gum and pulling it with a twist. I was completely relieved. I was happy it was over. It was time for the next one, but the dentist told me that since the other tooth is a crooked one, I have to go to a specialist to take it out. I feel better going to a specialist. I assume specialists have more sophisticated equipment that make the procedure of extracting my tooth less painful and quicker than the average procedure. Can't wait to get the other tooth out to get it over with.
I didn't like how you read that last sentence. DVP, read that last paragraph.
She was finally able to take the tooth after digging under my gum and pulling it with a twist. I was completely relieved. I was happy it was over. It was time for the next one. But the dentist told me that since the other tooth is a crooked one, I have to go to a specialist to take it out. I feel better going to a specialist. I assume specialists have more sophisticated equipment that'll make the procedure of extracting my tooth less painful and quicker than the average procedure. Can't wait to get the other tooth out and get it over with.
There you go. Exasperation. That's why we got the exclamation point there. Read that last sentence, Paper.
Can't wait to get the other tooth out to get it over with.
That sounds like you're saying, a finality sentence like, here he lies, rest in peace. Amen. This is an exclamation. You can't wait to get it over with. DKO, read it. Last sentence.
The last sentence.
Ahem.
Can't wait to get the other tooth out to get it over with.
You don't even know your own exclamation point? Let's see, who else can we call on? Oh, wait.
There's like only 4 of us in here.
Yeah, I know. We could call on Jar. Jar just showed up. Hold on. Here's a guy who's going to teach you guys how to read. Hold on. Right here. This guy. Where is he?
I'm excited for Jar.
Jar. There you are. Let's get Jar on here. This professional reader. Don't let me down. Jar, so much suspense. Damn it. Jar let me down.
What a tease.
What a teaser. Okay, let's see. I guess I'm going to have to read this. Can't wait to get the other tooth out and get it over with. Okay, can't wait to get the other tooth out and get it over with. Exasperation. Can't wait to get the other tooth out and get it over with. Paper. Hit it.
Can't wait to get the other tooth out to get it over with.
Exasperation.
What does
Exclamation.
exasperation mean?
You're going to have to look that up. Exasperation. Write that down.
Alright.
Last sentence, DKO, read it.
Can't wait to get the other tooth out and get it over with.
Harpo, teach him how to read it.
Okay. Can't wait to get the other tooth out to get it over with.
You hear exasperation in his voice, DKO?
Yes.
Read it. Yes. I hear exasperation in his voice. That computes. Yes. Read it.
Can't wait to get the other tooth out and get it over with.
Oh, that was better. But DVP is going to show you how to read it like a pro.
Can't wait to get the other tooth out and get it over with.
Let's hear it, DKO.
Can't wait to get the other tooth out and get it over with.
Nice. All right.
Wait, Plum.
Yo.
I used to speak like this before, but I thought it was too freaking dramatic, like I was in a play.
As opposed to now, when you're a Terminator?
Yeah.
You're in the Terminator play. This is DKO, my improved expression. It is not dramatic at all. Okay, let's see. I'm going to read one of mine since we're at the end here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Plum, some plum. Page 7.
Last post? Well, last post of yours.
Did I read that already? I might have read it already. Let me see. I hope you guys don't know this.
Read the one about...
Which one? You guys
The
pick one and
toothbrush.
I'll read it.
I like the one I hope
Toothbrush.
you realize that Manhood Academy is one big expression post, like when you talk about the origins of the Academy.
That's the last one.
Yeah.
Is that the toothbrush one?
No, that's the second. The toothbrush one is the second to last one.
What's
That was
the,
very informative.
what's the toothbrush one?
So we're talking about how, because nowadays we have a lot of food with lots of sugar, that we need a toothbrush to
Oh,
battle
gotcha.
cavities.
Well, I don't want
In
to
the
read.
past,
I don't
we
want
didn't
to.
need that.
Yeah, I understand. I don't want to read a teaching post. I want to read something that's more has more of a personal expression in it.
Okay. Then I'll go with what DK or what
Well,
DVP
let's
said.
try this one then. I don't know how personal this looks like more of an explain-a-thon too. It's
Which
talking
one?
about the.
Yeah, I think it brings you very well, actually. The third paragraph.
I didn't intend to have 19 different rotating banners. This one.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of talks about. It's more of the novelty of the academy of talking about the academy. I don't know if it's necessarily so personal.
I found one.
Okay, which one?
Actually, how about the one where you talk about...
DKO, which one? Hold on.
It's on the first page.
First page?
And it's with the Fantastic Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Oh, that is actually a very personal
that?
one.
Where? Which one?
Let's see.
First page, and it has a picture of the Fantastic Fox.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Looks like entry number 3.
Oh, I see it now.
I enjoy seeing this form move in one direction. Is that okay? Let's see here. I enjoy seeing this form move in one direction, not 2 or 3 or 10. This is not like every other form out there where there's an emphasis on individuality and every experience or thought is just as sacred as the other. When thoughts are not judged against any standard, they quickly lose any real meaning. Everything is lost in a sea of confusion. Confused ideals, confused values, confusing experiences. This is how I see so many forms today. I wonder how they can function other than being sustained by the feelings of being heard, being understood. 4chan, Reddit, Dig, etc. I read posts from High School 101 and Paperclip and Franchise, and even though these are different people with different backgrounds with varying degrees of education, the direction of their experiences are surprisingly uniform in nature. Yes, we teach that they will be uniform because of the principles involved that govern them all the same way, but it still surprises me to see it every time. The novelty of it hasn't worn off for me yet. I wonder if it ever will. The novelty of it. People do everything to me. They amaze me, they disturb me, they frighten me, they draw me, they repel me, they even follow me. Everything I am is wrapped up in everything I love and hate about people. Lay wistful. This is
I don't
fantastic
understand
Mr.
the
Fox.
last picture with Mr. Fox.
Well, it's a set. Well, this is kind of the picture. It's a lot of emotions for me. It makes me think of like the movie Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's kind of like when you look out your window or you look at nature, it makes you long for it. And it's kind of it's not like a super powerful longing, but it's kind of like a nostalgic feeling, like you're thinking about an old Christmas that might be bittersweet. It's got so many different emotions wrapped up in it. Like you might have not gotten what you liked, but you're spending time with your family. But it was also, maybe that year your dad died, but you also, you got a better relationship with your brother. So there's all these like conflicting things going on. And it's also the time period. It's also the mood, the setting. So it's so many different elements. So you're feeling so many different things. And I guess the overriding sense is that there's a wistfulness to it. There's a sense like that was a sweet. It's not necessarily bittersweet, but it's more of a.
Kind of like
it's kind of like going through a memory, like a tough memory you went through.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily longing for the time, but it's more like that time.
You appreciate what it's done for,
Yes.
how it's shaped you as a person.
Yes, there's an appreciation. So I'm going back and saying, there's people that frighten me, they disturb me, they draw me, they repel me, people follow me. So everything is wrapped up with the people. I love them and I hate them. So there's kind of this sense of, I'm going through this, or I've gone through that, or I see these things.
Okay. Now I understand.
This is Mr. Fantastic Mr. Fox. Whenever I watch this movie, there's like all these complex emotions I have. Or I should say, many different emotions. Not necessarily complex, but I'm feeling so many different things at once.
Well, I'm definitely going to see it. It's a movie, right?
Yeah, it's like a animated movie by Tim Burton, I think.
Alright.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you said everything is lost in a sea of confusion, is that an analogy by saying sea of confusion?
Sea, maybe a picture of a sea, yes. I think
that's more of a metaphor than an analogy.
Same thing.
Sea of
Like,
confusion.
yeah, like a sea of confusion. The sea of confusion related.
I think the sea of confusion is the metaphor, but like saying it's like that is making it into an analogy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sea of confusion.
It's like a metaphor and an analogy.
Yeah, sea of confusion. Yeah, it's basically, you got the same sense though. It's like when I'm saying a sea, like an ocean of confusion.
Yeah.
Same type of thing.
So it's an analogy.
I didn't necessarily like this one because it was more about explaining. This is more of my take on things, like how I see things. Like if I see things as a sea, an ocean of things, I don't necessarily see them as just distinct events. I see them all collectively as like an ocean of things happening. So my arrangement is letting you see how I see things, my perspective on things.
Very nice. I like.
Comments.
Well, kind of the way I saw it was like, speaking of lost in a sea of confusion, that's a phrase that you hear a lot in society. So I think it's kind of lost its, like when you hear it, you don't necessarily think of, it's a sea.
Yes.
You think, things are like mixed up and lost and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
I really like the sentence where you say, people do everything to me. They amaze me. They disturb me. They frighten me. They draw me. I mean, the part where you say they frighten me, for some reason, like, because I'm a student, I have a very warped view and I kind of forget that you're a person like anybody else.
Right.
And I forget that you have fear like the rest of us. And so it's just, it makes you more human to me to see that you say, they frighten me.
It humanizes the poster on your wall.
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's got an autograph on it.
There's an autograph on the poster.
TTVP, love plum.
Paper.
Yo,
Any thoughts?
I was just stuck on this, the analogy you used. I was like, oh, that's cool. I can imagine a huge sea filled with question marks.
Okay.
That was cool.
Literal?
Literal question marks. Swimming in question marks. DVP.
Yeah, literally.
Yo.
I'm sorry, DVP. DKO.
It was, in the beginning, it sounded a little bit boring, but when you went on and started talking about forums and then 4chan, I started listening and I was like, 4chan? I used to go on there a lot. And then I was like,
So, like,
oh,
you're again the crazy cat lady projecting your experiences onto the cat. So, if there was no mention of 4chan or Reddit, you wouldn't be interested. You'd fall asleep. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Harpo, we heard from you. Okay, sweet. Wow. We finished on time because we only have 4 people in class. Congratulations. I think we'll have class tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll try and get more people in here, especially in different time zones.
Let's
Any
do it.
last questions or issues you want to bring up from your own posts, your own experiences, EM reports, anything? Now you have the floor.
I got a question. This is Harpo here.
Harpo Darpo, let's hear it.
This is kind of general, but how do you shake off the feeling that, like, a little bit of it you goes a long way for other people? Like, I feel people get annoyed with me really fast. Even regardless of whether that's actually true.
Well,
Is that just realizing that, like, everyone has the same needs, nobody is...
yeah,
like,
how do you realize things? Because you don't have
By
this
training.
realization yet. What's that?
you have to train.
Yes, the repetition, the seeing the same response from people over and over, the validating response from people, the approval, the praise from people, and saying, oh, Harpo, I like talking to you that one time, or I want to hang out with you. When you see that repeatedly, this changes your perspective. It gives you a realization. But if you only hear it one time, you say something, and then I say, hey, Harpo, that was cool, and you heard it once, is that going to change your realization? Is that going to change your perspective?
Nope.
No. You need to do this again. You need to say that again, and then you see these people have another positive response. And then you see it happen again, and then you see a pattern, and then what happens after you see that?
Then your behavior changes.
No. What happens before that?
So the question is that... crap. I lost my train of thought.
You have a realization. You say, oh, if I'm behaving this way, people will react this way to me. And then you have a realization about, this is what people like. This is what meets their needs. This is what attracts them. Oh, I'm an attractive person.
So it goes training to realization.
Yes.
And then stuff...
Like, I can tell you this stuff. You may know it in theory. You may read it in the ebook and say it's a good idea to do this. But without that practice, it's still not real. Your other bad habits are stronger. Your other view is much stronger right now. Your neurotic view is much stronger right now.
That's right.
Because you have more practice with your neurotic view. You have more practice with your bad social habits, and people react negatively to you. That reinforces your bad social habits even more, and they still react negatively to you, so it creates this kind of downward spiral. But you get some new information, you learn some new things, and you try out some new things, and you get different reactions. And so slowly over time, these new reactions produce a new perspective. But it takes training. Without training to get these reactions from people, you'll still have that same thought, that same perspective, your same old perspective.
Better train then.
Better train.
Yeah.
Repetition. Anything else?
I like these podcasts about expression. They're very educational.
I agree. Wish we had more students in class. Thank you guys for showing up. It's been educational as always. We'll see you next time.